All right, welcome to the latest episode of Five Guys here on the Five Reasons YouTube channel. I'm Ethan Skolnick. I am at home. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick at Five Reasons Sports. We got Alex Donno. He is not at home. I'm used to seeing the piano in the background. He's actually at ACC Media Day. We'll probably do some Canes conversation at some point going forward. But today we're going to talk about the Dolphins. Do want to mention one of our great sponsors of the Five Reasons Sports Network, Better Edge. You can find them at betteredge.com. This is where you go to bet legally and without a VIG. I keep telling people this. You don't want to be giving money to the house. You don't have to do that with Better Edge. You find the line that you want. You go into their markets. It's right there for you. You can bet just about anything there. And again, you can join our contest. We're going to be doing a USA basketball contest that's going to be coming up by the end of the week for the Olympics. So make sure that you check that out. Again, betteredge.com. Use the code 5RSN. You get $20 to play right away. The Dolphins are in training camp. God, it feels like it was just December. We don't like to talk about December with the Dolphins. But, Alex, we're going to frame this a certain way today. We've got Alfredo Arteaga from 3 Yards Per Carry, the #1 Dolphins podcast. He's going to be joining us in a few minutes. Actually, he was at training camp today. He's going to be out there for the majority of the days during training camp and doing his reports, and he'll do one with us here. But to me, this is a pretty simple framework this year. Like, there are some seasons like you don't know what they're about, but you're in year 3 of the Mike McDaniel era. Tua, this is now year 5, and we're still waiting on that extension, which I thought would come by last night. So still waiting on that to see what happens and how that plays out. Chris Greer is in his 367th year with the franchise, and the division is down. I mean, it's just down. Like, the Patriots are no good. The Bills lost a ton of talent on defense, core leadership players not there anymore. One of them is with the Dolphins, and Jordan Poyer. And the Jets, I just can't take them seriously. I'm sorry. Like, defensively, yes. Rodgers off an Achilles. I'm just not seeing it. Like, it's very simple for me. You have to win the division this year, because it's the path to actually winning a playoff game for the first time since December 30th, 2000. So that is, to me, if they cannot win the division this year, I'm not saying you fire McDaniel. Okay, I'm a big McDaniel guy. But I do think you're going to have to make a lot of changes, and I think a refresh is going to be necessary, because you have, again, reshaped the defense, brought in a new coordinator again, and to me, it's very simple. Win the division. That's it. Get a home playoff game.
Yeah, a part of me, Ethan, would really like to say that I don't care if they win the division or not. I just want to win a playoff game or multiple playoff games by any means necessary, because as we know, we've talked about it so much on Five Guys, the Dolphins have not won a playoff game since December of 2000. Probably a lot of the people watching this right now were not even alive the last time the Miami Dolphins won a playoff game. But at the same time, there's credence to what you're saying about winning the division, because as we've seen the last couple of years, going on the road, especially to difficult climates like what you faced in Kansas City last year in the wild card round, is not necessarily conducive for this team to have playoff success. That if you can get home field advantage for as long as possible, and then, you're going to have favorable conditions in the Super Bowl. Where is the Super Bowl this coming year? Do you know off the top of your head? I'm assuming it's not in Detroit or something. Like, well, even if it was, they're indoors now.
I think they got away from that. Is it? Hold on. You're going to make me search here. Hold on.
I'm going to make Ethan Google.
Make me Google. Hold on. Or Bing. I think that's what comes up here. It is.
Oh.
It's at the Caesars Superdome. It's back in New Orleans.
Oh, okay. Well, so you're not going to be in the frozen tundra then. So, I mean, if you win the division, if you're a top 2 seed in the AFC,
frozen drinks instead. Frozen drinks. Hurricane.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So I hear what you're saying on that. But again, like, where I set the bar for this year is win a playoff game, hopefully multiple playoff games, which is going to sell me a lot more on Tua Tagovailoa than I have in recent years, because that's also something he's not done yet. But then at the same time, I look at this AFC East, and the Dolphins are, of course, one of the question marks. Can they continue? Because they have incrementally improved first 2 years under Mike McDaniel. Can they take another step forward in the third year? Can Tua stay healthy all year the way that he did last year, which would be a big boost for this team? But there are so many question marks elsewhere as well, because you talk about a lot of changes in Buffalo. Well, they do have an important constant there, and that's Josh Allen, who I think is one of the very best in the NFL, despite the fact he can be careless with the football from time to time. To me, that's one of the upper echelon quarterbacks in the league. And then the bigger question mark, I think, are the New York Jets with Aaron Rodgers. Because coming off an Achilles, he's going to be 41 years old before the upcoming season is over. What are you really going to get for him? Now, if he can return to his MVP form a couple of years ago for 1 year on what is a very talented New York Jets team, now he could either elevate them or hold them back, depending on how he does this year. So I don't think the division is a cakewalk outside of everybody should have 2 free spaces when they play New England, because they should not be any good this year. But outside of that, anyone can make an argument for the Dolphins, for the Bills, or for the New York Jets if you get something from Rodgers. So I don't think it's going to be an easy division by any stretch of the imagination. But hell, if the Dolphins can finally win that AFC East for the first time in a long time, they would put themselves in favorable position in the playoffs and not have to go to somewhere where it's negative 30 degrees in early January this year or next year.
Well, win 11 games. I kind of feel like if you win 11 games, you're going to win the division. And I look at the roster and I just don't see the excuses this time.
Yeah.
Losing Shaq Barrett right before camp, not great. Bringing back Agba, maybe he'll be returned to some kind of form. Obviously, Fangio didn't like him, so we'll see what happens. This year looked like he lost a step anyway. To me, the big questions are always going to be offensive line, and then it's also pass rush. And I know we'll see if they address it with Chop Robinson. But again, Barrett was supposed to be part of that, and you don't have Phillips at full strength, at least at the start, and obviously Chubb, and so you're still kind of paying the price for things that happened late last year. The Chubb thing was particularly unfortunate. Phillips, I don't know. You could argue he should have. Okay, I guess he was still in the game. Chubb, I still don't understand why he was in the game, but there's enough on defense. Okay, and they look like Xavier Howard to me was a declining player. So I actually think they've upgraded back there in the secondary. I think the secondary should be better than it was, and you have a full season from Ramsey. And I do think the linebacker play in general, they'll miss Van Ginkel, but I think they're going to be fine there. And the offense, look, I don't know what Beckham's going to bring, but they didn't get a ton of production from the receivers beyond their top 2 last year anyway. So to me, it's gravy. Hill is still going to be uncoverable provided he stays healthy, and Waddle should take another leap. And the backfield, which was really good last year, will be better. I don't think Mostert's going to lose a step. He keeps himself in great shape. Devon, again, I'm not even going there because I knew.
That's why I filled in the blank for you.
I avoided it because that's one of those days I just can't. I do it different way. Khalil Ware, I've done 12 different pronunciations of him. That he keep bringing in guys whose names I can't pronounce. But yes, Achade or Achade or Achan or whatever it is. And then you've added another home run threat there in the draft potentially, who's going to pop at times this year, I think, in Jalen Wright. So I think that, McDaniel has the roster he wants at this point. He has the coordinator he wants at this point. He has the quarterback that he's been comfortable with and wants. I don't see any excuses at this point. You got to win 11, and that wins you the division. Winning the division gets you a home playoff game. You're not traveling up like you said, in the tundra to Kansas City or something along those lines. And, and then you kind of take your chances with the rest of the conference once you get that playoff win. But they have to win a playoff game this year. It's just that's where I'm at with it. And I think too, it does also. We're going to bring on Alf. So before we do, I want to tell you about a great sponsor. Dolphins jerseys there, Panthers jerseys there, Heat jerseys there. We don't talk about the Marlins, but I think they have those jerseys 305.
Hey, it's Ethan Skolnick for the 5 Reasons Sports Network. We've got a great new sponsor that fits with us perfectly. It's called jerseys305.com. That's jerseys305.com. This is your home for dead stock and vintage jerseys from the Heat, Panthers, Dolphins, Marlins, and the other local teams. Their mission was born from a passion for wearing jerseys of the old styles and the past players. Jerseys 305 aims to make every fan stand out from the crowd with unique pieces that you don't commonly see anymore. Maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, but not today. And Jerseys 305 was created by the fans, for the fans. They're diehards just like you. In fact, they're probably listening to this episode right now. So check them out. Jerseys 305, their partnership with 5 Reasons Sports, celebrating with a 10% discount on the next purchase using the code 5 at checkout. Unlock your exclusive savings on the entire vintage collection.
All right, now we're going to go out to the guest line. I haven't done that in so long. Alex, you still get to do that. I don't get to do that anymore. Like
I do, and I always forget which Toyota dealership sponsors the guest line because there's like 8 of them, and they all sponsor different things. So maybe we should get our own Toyota dealership for this.
Well, we had one, Doral Toyota. If you want to come back, I'll say. I mean, typically for me, it was either a credit counselor or a penis pill that was sponsoring our guest line. So we don't have either of those here on the show. Although if any of those want to join, we would definitely take the sponsorships. We got Alf Arteaga. He's back in his home studio for 3 yards per carry. Give me first thing before we get to the details of today. We set the expectation here. I say they got to go 11-6 and win the division this year. To me, anything short and then win a home playoff game. Anything short of that is disappointment with this roster. Would and with the stage in McDaniel's tenure and Tua's tenure. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. This team has to win the division. If they win the division with 10 wins, that's fine. But they got to win the division, which means they got to split with Buffalo. They got to keep their dominance over the Patriots and likely beat the Jets twice. If they do that, if they go 5-1 in the division, they should win it. And if you have a home game, you should win playoff games at home. It's the way it goes. I didn't know that this was true, but I looked it up. The Dolphins have won. Do you know how many playoff games they've won on the road since 1983?
No.
None?
One.
Which was the one?
And you know the one that they won was in 1999, and it was in Seattle in a dome.
I remember that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
It was Marino's last win. The following week, you know what happened in Jacksonville.
Jacksonville, right? Yeah, the 62-7 after that.
Yeah. So and it's really throughout the the league. Teams don't win on the road in the playoffs. They just don't. So yeah, if you want to win playoff games, you want to make a run toward a Super Bowl, you need a higher seed and you need to have home games in the playoffs. Playing on the road in the playoffs is a losing proposition.
Yeah, I do have some questions about the AFC East I wanted to ask you, but I want to ask you this first. Alf, where do you think we are now with the Tua Tagovailoa contract extension?
Well, I was just there today, and everybody's like, yeah, it's happening. It's happening. Trust me, it's happening. When is it going to happen? Now, I will say this. Everybody keeps saying, oh, they're two separate players. They're not connected. Obviously, they're connected. Jordan Love and Tua Tagovailoa have the same representatives. Not the exact same agent, but it's the same. It's David Muglietta's outfit. It's the same agency. Can you envision any scenario where Jordan Love gets one figure and then the next day Tua gets a lesser figure? No. Or vice versa. Tua gets a big figure today and then Jordan Love takes a little less tomorrow. So as much as they say that they're not connected and they're two separate people and two separate negotiations, I think that they're somewhat connected. Agents like to save face. They don't. They like to fulfill their promises to their clients, and I wouldn't be shocked if both players contracts are eerily similar.
Yeah, I mean, and that leads to the next question here because I would think that once he gets the extension, that there'll be a certain calm around the building, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because his teammates believe in him. We can talk about the fans. I know Alex has some doubts too, which he's expressed. Which I mean, again, win a playoff game, and I think some of that stuff will go away.
A lot of it will go away, yeah.
Right. So I think that's part of it. But I saw Le Batard came out and basically, and I do differ with Dan on a lot of football opinions. And he basically came out and said, that he thinks he's, what did he say was, he's basically Goff, right? I think that's what he said yesterday. That was the clip he posted on IG. I think he's better than Jared Goff. I do. I think that, but the idea being that the circumstances have to be perfect around him. The injury concerns for me, Alf.
And by the way, let me sorry to interrupt you, Ethan, but I hear this all the time, and I especially see it on Twitter, and now it's creeping into like the debate shows and now local radio and local podcasts, where Jared Goff Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, like these are insults. These are really good quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Right.
If you have
Well,
one of these guys, you can win.
Right. And if you don't have one of those guys, you're trying to find one.
Yes.
What you don't want is you don't want to get stuck with a Daniel Jones, which everybody knew at the time that was a bad contract. Tua is not a Daniel Jones. I also, when I look at his injury history, again, he was one of the healthiest quarterbacks in the NFL last year. I mean, that argument, any quarterback can get hurt. I mean, Rodgers got hurt on the first play. Like, I mean, any quarterback could get hurt. I mean, Danny was the most durable guy, right? Not in college, but he was in the pros. Popped his Achilles. It happens. Okay. Like this is and obviously had the knee issues that he needed to work through. So the injury thing, to me, it's this. Can Tua make the best of a bad situation? Whether it's on a play that doesn't go the right way and he can use his legs to improvise and make something happen out of nothing, which we know obviously the elite of the elite can do, whether it's Lamar or Mahomes, and some of the others. And can he make the best of a bad situation, like having to go play in a Kansas City on the road in December or January? To me, that's the thing that he has to show at this point. It's not the health. The health is variable. The guy is no more brittle than others at this point. Okay, he's had the concussion stuff. He obviously had the hip injury. I'm past all of that. I want to see him elevate when the circumstances are not in his favor. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it seems like the front office and Mike McDaniel have decided, you know what, we're going to work around these edges from last year. We talked about it on the podcast all of last year. We did not like the third pass catching options on this team last year. They just weren't very good. Cedric Wilson, yeah, they paid him a lot of money. They expected him to be a number 2. It turns out that probably was going to be a pretty bad idea because he just wasn't very good for this team. He made some plays, but the advanced numbers and as far as separation and so forth just weren't there. So they decided, we're going to get a guy that we can throw design passes to in Jonnu Smith, an upgrade as a pass catching tight end, and more importantly, a guy with some speed, because you could see it last year. You got to time these guys up when they're out in routes, and when you have a Tyreek Hill or a Jalen Waddle, and they're running alongside somebody like Durham Smythe, and no offense to Durham Smythe, he's a good NFL player and a good blocker. He can't move. He's slow. It's as simple as that. Jonnu Smith is a guy with some speed, and then decided, you know what, we got to win on third down. We got to be better on third down. That's the Achilles heel of this offense. Tyreek Hill actually said it today. He said, it's fun to score on 4 plays. It's fun to score on 5 plays and just throw a ball over the top, and we got 7 points. But we'll be at our best when we could put together 12-play drives. Odell Beckham, I think, is a guy that helps them do that. So they decided to work around the edges and help Tua on third downs and help them with the third pass catching option. And it should make the offense a lot better. More importantly than all of that, I think, is a commitment to running the football. And adding Jalen Wright suggests to me that they're going to try to keep Raheem Mostert a little fresher this year, so he'll be ready to play at the end of the season, because it's been 2 years in a row he misses the last game of the season.
Well, on defense, what's your outlook on the edge? Because there's a lot going on there with a couple of guys coming off Achilles injuries, with the Shaq Lawson retirement and the return of Emmanuel Ogbah. How you feeling about that part of the defense? And as a side note on that, how we feeling about Jalen Phillips' recovery? Because he looked good doing that ladder drill a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I don't worry about Jalen Phillips, young guy. He's, what is he, 24? Something like that. I worry more about somebody like Bradley Chubb, who's had 2 knee injuries, and that's a guy that I would not expect for the first month of the season. Jalen Phillips, I really would not be surprised if he's ready for week 1. At least he's telling everybody he'll be ready for week 1. Tomorrow's going to be an important day because they hand us the first training camp roster. It's the first official training camp roster. Today they were doing sprints, 110-yard sprints, which is their conditioning test. So tomorrow, the guys that failed the conditioning test or are actually injured will be on the PUP list. So we'll know a little bit more about Jalen Phillips tomorrow. If he did the conditioning test, that kind of points toward him playing week 1. As far as overall what they've done, they lost Shaq Barrett and they replaced him with a different kind of player. Emmanuel Ogbah is more of a 5-tech, hand-in-the-dirt type of guy. He'll play on third downs as a 3-tech, which is basically between the tackle and the guard. This suggests that maybe Calais Campbell is going to play in the same role that he played in Atlanta last year. out on the edge to start the season. So I find it odd that they replaced Shaq Barrett with a completely different kind of player. As far as Emmanuel Ogbah, what kind of player he is, standing up as an edge, quite frankly, he was not very good last year. Now, can he get to, after the quarterback, get his hands up in the passing lanes? Yeah, he's pretty good at that. As a run defender on the edge, not very good as well. Like I said, he's a completely different player. They're relying on 2 rookies to play some significant snaps. But if they can, if they can count on Jalen Phillips to come back in the first month of the season, and Bradley Chubb can give you maybe 10 games this year, they should be improved over what they had last year on the edge. I'm a big fan of Mo Kamara. I've talked about him a lot. He's a guy that you can watch in training camp, and I wouldn't be surprised if Mo Kamara and Chop Robinson are sharing snaps as essentially what will be the third edge guy.
Yeah, I love the Kamara pick. I just watching him last year. I mean, he plays with a motor that I think is going to translate to a lot of. I like their draft, honestly. I know a lot of people didn't. I like their draft, and I think that the talent procurement this offseason was good in general. And the Shaq Barrett thing's unfortunate, but they have the pieces right now, I think, to make a run. That's why I say it's kind of a no excuses team. And as that 2 extension, I know that it will be massaged in a way by Brandon Shore and others to make sure that it doesn't hit them too hard in the future. But obviously it's easier to win with a quarterback who is not on big money. Like it's just the way it is in the NFL. Before we let you go, Alf, we appreciate it. Again, check out 3 yards per carry twice a week. You guys twice a week yet? Or are you going? Yeah, you have been lately, right?
Yeah, we go twice a week in about 2 weeks when they get into the preseason. But I'll be doing daily shows from camp every single day, just like I did last year. And of course, we still have Q&A live. So yeah,
check out OnlyFins for those who are not subscribed to OnlyFins, as you should subscribe to Off the Floor. Get off of Twitter. Check out everything that these guys do there. To close here, what's the training camp battle you're most interested in?
I'm interested to see what's going to happen with the linebackers, because if you do the numbers there, Cam Brown's going to make the team. And I know I was on with Omar, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and he was like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, they got him as a specialist for special teams. Like every team is going to have core special teams players. And I was listening to an interview with Mike Westhoff on with Joe Rose, and he was saying every team in the NFL, and I tend to trust whatever he says as far as special teams goes. He says every team's going to have at least 3 core special teams players and guys behind them on a depth chart. The Dolphins essentially do have those 3 core special teams players. Cam Brown has done nothing but play special teams his entire career in the NFL. So he's a core guy. If you do the numbers, that leaves Channing Tindall and Duke Riley for the last linebacking spot, because Jordan Brooks and David Long are locks. And you didn't sign Anthony Walker to be a core special teamer as well as a sub-package linebacker to cut him, right? So Duke Riley and Channing Tindall, one of those will not be on the roster, I would guess. So I'm interested to see how the linebackers shake out.
I mean, if it's Tindall's cut, I mean, that's, again, it's tough sometimes for GMs to admit that somebody just didn't work out for you, right? And part of it is coordinator change, but
if he's cut, it's going to say a lot about him, because sight unseen right now, you can save almost $3 million by cutting Duke Riley. So if they cut Channing Tindall, it means we'd rather pay the 4th linebacker $3 million than keep Tindall on the roster.
I feel like they're going to keep Riley. It just feels like, I mean, again, I'm basing this off what I saw in Hard Knocks and kind of the way that Mike communicates with him, but it just feels like he's their kind of guy. I don't know. There's a question that comes in here, so I'll let you before you leave, Alfredo. When does Tua get signed, in your opinion?
Look, there's hard deadlines coming up that I believe are hard deadlines. The Atlanta Falcons are coming in here in 14 days, I believe it is, for two training camp practices, 2 joint practices. I don't see how Tua will participate in those practices without a contract. So that's the first hard deadline. The next hard deadline is the first preseason game. And then, of course, you have the regular season. So I'm going to venture to guess that he'll have a contract in hand before they have the joint practices with the Falcons.
Alex, we got Tua waiting on the extension. Jimmy doesn't want the extension now.
Yeah.
Barkov got his extension, right? The Panthers just extend guys for 8 years. That's it. Like,
I mean,
literally
you
extended it so
you
that
can't not extend Barkov. I mean,
No,
a lot
you
of people
can't.
would say the
And the
same about
Marlins
Tua.
and the Marlins give
And the-
you $12 million to stay home.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's pretty much
right.
what it, yeah, that's what they did with Avicel. Awful bleep. We don't really talk about them here. Alex, thank you. Thanks to our sponsors, Jerseys 305. Follow Alfredo. Alfredo, I'll make it out there at some point this week. I'm just figuring out the day. So it's hot though, right? I don't know. My office
Yeah,
is
it's oppressive. Yeah, it's oppressive.
my office is air conditioned, so I don't know. I'll think about it. Why can't they practice inside all the time like the Heat do?
That's a well, they
Yeah,
do on
It
occasion.
takes the
They do.
advantage away then if you practice
Well,
inside.
they don't have the Nick Saban Memorial Bubble anymore. They got the other thing.
Yeah.
I remember the Nick Saban Memorial Bubble. That's the one good thing he left it for them in Davie. Now we just got the rodeo. All right, thanks to Alf. Thanks to Alex. We appreciate it. We'll be back on Thursday. Better Edge, use the code 5RSN. Have a good day, everybody.